Greetings from the void. It's like black. I'm about to film tomorrow the last scene in my video essay on the main channel. That's why it's all black. I don't know. The lighting tends to work better that way anyway. I like blackness behind me. I get comments sometimes like, why don't you have your apartment in the shot? Why is it just a black sheet? Because it looks nicer than my apartment. My apartment is crap. Anyway, this is I'm recording, right? Yes, I'm recording. This is an unscripted wow, really? I couldn't tell. An unscripted companion video to the video essay that I just uploaded on the main channel. So, I mean, if you haven't seen that video yet and you got 2.5 hours to kill, go see that. But assuming you've already seen it, I'm just expanding on the little AI section. I made that video for general audiences about sort of the localization industry, the role that fans play in it and continue to play in it, etc. And there was a section in there about AI and AI translation. And in the original script, I went into great detail about like the Japanese mechanics of everything and how it all worked. But I realized that video on the main channel is more for a general audience or of anime otaku and just a general audience, people, not necessarily people who understand Japanese or who are learning Japanese. So I thought that would just be too much for that video, and that video is so long anyway, I had to make a lot of cuts. So I thought I would put the Japanese parts in this video in more detail, just really go over what the AI translation was like. So if you haven't seen the video, the big video, I asked an AI to translate a section from the Fushigi Yuugi light novel Seiran Den, and last year I went through the first chapter of that light novel with some patrons, and different patrons translated different sections of it, and I compared and contrasted their translations with my translations that I did when I was like 18 and not very good at Japanese, and just to teach Japanese and to show the translation process through that. And so I thought, well, since I already have that in detail on this channel, it would be cool if I asked an AI to translate that section and see how the AI did. So I'm referencing, I don't know which episode in the series I'm referencing. I'll put words next to my face in post if you want to consult the episode of my series where I went over this part of the novel with patrons. Otherwise, we're just going to kind of jump right in. Yeah, so specifically I asked CHAT GPT to translate a section of a light novel, and CHAT GPT is not that much different actually from pre-existing like Google Translate, except the only difference is you can type like a very, very, very long prompt into it and get very specific about what you want from the AI, whereas in Google Translate, you're more doing just like a word or a sentence or two at a time. ChatGPT is better at handling large sections of text. So the section that I had ChatGPT translate in the light novel, I'm going to read over it badly right now in Japanese for those of you who are listening, or if you just want to hear the words as you're reading along. Again, this video is more intended for intermediate to advanced Japanese learners or just Japanese learners in general. So if you're not learning Japanese at all, some of this will probably go over your head. But just if you want more detail in how the AI translated the actual Japanese. Okay, so the section from the light novel is Taria is a girl character who is talking to Ayuru, a boy character who she has a crush on, and she's trying to kind of tell him or broach the subject of her having a crush on him by telling him this story about the Seiran pearl in the lake. It's very special to their tribe. Okay, so this is her talking. これは女の子が10歳になった時に教えてもらえる話なのよ。しかも女の子だけに。And then this part's narration. そして少女は話し始めた。And now she's talking again. この湖はね、主様がお出ましになるばかりじゃなくて、すごくロマンチックな伝説がある場所なんだって。ここにはね、セーランの真珠っていう貝があるの。Narration. 10歳の少女はポッと頬を染めた。Now she's talking again. その貝はね、心から愛する人のいる女の人にだけ見えるの。貝の中にはね、この香水のように青く美しい色をした真珠2つ入っていて、2人はそれを愛の証として一生分かち持っているの。Narration. ターリアはそこで横の少年を見た。Now she's talking again. ねえ、アユル、聞いてるの？ And then this is a new line of dialogue. え、 聞いてるよ. And then this narration, 少々上の空状態相手に、ターリアは少しばかり気分をそがれたようだった. And then this is her final line, これだから男の子って. Narration, そう言うと、ターリアはチャポンとまた小石を投げた. Okay, so that's the whole passage in Japanese. I read it a bit choppily, partly because I'm bad at speaking Japanese and partly so that you guys could hear it a little better. Anyway, so when I just plugged that into CHAT GPT and just asked, hey, translate this light novel passage from Japanese to English, the translation was mostly correct. So I've gone over on this channel and my other channel so many times how a correct translation isn't always necessarily the best one when it comes to entertainment and art translation. Like, correct is good, accuracy is good, but we want more than that. We want to capture the essence and the feelings and the tone and the color of the original Japanese text. So ChatGPT-chan, I called it in the video, read by mainly Mandy, by the way. Check out her channel if you like video essays. She has a variety of content, and I recommend her imposter video the most. It's pretty recent. Anyway, I had her read this kind of as an AI, so I think I'll just insert that in this video in case you haven't seen the main video, so that you can see how ChatGPT translated it. So I'm going to put the text on the screen as well. And the stuff that's highlighted in yellow is the stuff that just kind of like sounds stilted. It's not wrong, but it just kind of sounds weird. And then the stuff that I've highlighted in green is stuff that ChatGPT did outright wrong, like incorrectly.
This is a story that girls can only be told when they turn 10 years old. Moreover, only to girls. And so the young girl began to speak. This lake has a very romantic legend, besides the fact that our Lord appears here. There is a shell here called the Syrian pearl. This shell can only be seen by women who have someone they love from the bottom of their hearts. Inside the shell, there are two pearls that are as blue and beautiful as the water in this lake. The two people who find the pearls will share them as proof of their love for the rest of their lives. The 10-year-old girl blushed a little. Hey, Aru, are you listening? Talia looked at the boy beside her. Huh? Oh yeah, I'm listening, replied Aru, seeming a bit absent-minded. Talia's mood was slightly dampened by this response. This is why boys are like this. Saying that, Talia tossed another pebble with a snap.
Okay, so right off the bat, you'll notice that the AI did not put in any line breaks. So in my little selection that I have here, I think when I pasted it into ChatGPT, maybe it like didn't recognize the line breaks. I think that sort of thing is easily remedied with the programming. But ChatGPT also did not give Taria, the speaker, a good character voice, in my opinion. I think she sounds a little like a textbook. Like when you see words like moreover, like who, which 10-year-old girl, I don't care how precocious she is, like who uses the word moreover in conversation. And besides the fact that that can also sound a little bit textbooky and stilted. If you look in the Japanese, there's character and color in her voice. The use of ellipses and small tsus really indicate tone of voice. And those are the sorts of things that an AI has a really hard time capturing that. Things like ellipses and small tsus, they kind of signal to the speaker what to do with your voice. A small tsu at the end of your dialogue means that your voice kind of snaps, either in excitement or anger, but it adds a lot of color to it. And we don't really have that kind of punctuation in English, like an exclamation point doesn't really do the trick. So sometimes you express that with words. Anyway, and I just wasn't really getting much of any of that from the AI here. And like, again, the translation's pretty correct for the most part. It just doesn't have much character voice. I highlighted appears because the nuance is more like our Lord makes his appearance. Odemashi ni naru. Arawareru would be more like appears, just to appear as a verb, but like odemashi ni naru is more, I don't know, it's more regal, and simply appears to me, it seemed a bit lacking. It's very nitpicky. Like it's technically correct to say our Lord appears there. And I flagged two people. If you'll see, the highlighted, the two people who find the pearls will share them as proof of their love for the rest of their lives. That's not technically wrong. Futari does literally mean two people, but often in certain contexts it means the lovers, the couple. the pair, the two of us. It's like us, we. It has that kind of nuance to it. It's not just two people, even though it literally means two people. And she's telling a romantic story and trying to get him in the mood. So like the two people, it's more like the lovers, the couple, the happy couple. I think something like that would work a lot better for that, for futari in this case. So yeah, I mean, these word choices aren't exactly bad or incorrect. They're just a couple of those instances where there's probably a more apt word choice for like appears and the two people and moreover and stuff like that. So the two green highlighted parts, the first two of them, if you notice, like I highlighted in green the period and the space and then the capital T and this at the beginning, that basically is just notating that the line of narration, the 10-year-old girl blushed a little, is supposed to go there. It's supposed to be, there is a shell here called the Seiran pearl, end quote, and then the 10-year-old girl blushed a little, begin quote. This shell can only be seen by women. And the reason why I think it's important, it's not too nitpicky to say, hey, that narration tag, that dialogue tag is supposed to come earlier. It's adding something. It's signaling to the reader, oh, the next thing that she's about to say is making her shy or embarrassed or making her blush from romantic feelings. But instead, there's no tag and like no pause in there, and it's just, I'm gonna tell this story. So I do think that's a problem. That dialogue tag was moved for some strange reason. And then there is a shell that can only be seen by women. I actually didn't highlight that, but passive voice in general, we want to avoid that. It's not wrong. Like sometimes you do want to use passive voice in a translation. The shell can only be seen by women who have someone they love from the bottom of their hearts. Like, that's okay. Just noting that passive voice is something that you should try to avoid in Japanese to English translation, and the AI kept it in passive. And not necessarily because it knew, well, in this case, passive voice works. Oh, right, I didn't say this at the beginning of the video, but I'll say it now. Just remember this, keep this in mind. Anytime you hear anybody talking about an AI in the context of language and like writing and stuff, AI does not understand English, and it also does not understand Japanese. So it's like, it's really just drawing upon all the dictionaries, all the translated material that exists, like online that it can glean from, including stuff that I have translated. So I, without my consent, have trained this AI to translate to an extent. And I'm not getting paid for it. So that's a huge issue with AI, and I covered that in the big video essay. I digress. Sorry if I sound kind of frazzled in this video. I'm like in the middle of editing the big video that's on the other channel that I uploaded concurrently with this video, and I'm kind of like in two brain spaces right now. And I'm not sure who's seen that video and who hasn't, and I'm trying to provide enough context for people who haven't seen the video without being too repetitive. But anyway, to the most important mistake that the AI made in this line, if you look at the third green line highlighted, this is why boys are like this. And this is actually a line that my patrons kind of struggled with as well. And it's very simple Japanese word-wise. Kore dakara otoko no ko te. Kore dakara and otoko no ko. Those are all like first level Japanese words. Kore, this, dakara, because, otoko no ko, boy. But it does not mean this is why boys are like this. Kore dakara is a very like sarcastic, cynical, huffy sort of expression that a person says when they're complaining about something. It's kind of like, boys, am I right? Or can you believe this guy? It's that kind of vibe. It's not, this is why boys are like this. It's more like literally, it's always this with boys, isn't it? That's kind of literally more what it is. But yeah, the point is, Ayuru wasn't really listening to her story, that she's trying to say to broach the subject, hey, I'm in love with you, Ayuru. And she's just really frustrated. That's the context of her saying this line. And the AI did not capture that at all. And if you don't understand the sentence in Japanese, it's really hard to capture that feeling. And like I said, the AI does not understand Japanese, so I can't exactly blame it. The TLDR of this particular passage, this particular pass, is CHAT GPT gave a translation that was mostly correct, but it lacked emotion and character voice, and it wasn't formatted properly like a novel either. It was just all a big blob of text, although, again, I think it's some problem with CHAT GPT, something they could probably pretty easily iron out. So the next time I gave the CHAT GPT a more specific prompt, I told it, translate the following passage from a light novel into English. Tarlia, I changed the spelling to see if CHAT GPT would pick up on it. The girl telling the story is a bubbly, courageous girl who has a crush on her friend Ayuru. She is a little shy to tell him his story because it's her special way of hinting to him that she has a crush on him. Format this like a novel. So that I'm giving the AI subtext that the AI isn't necessarily going to have because the AI doesn't understand English or Japanese. So I'm trying to teach the AI basically how to translate using character voice. I'm trying to coach it. So what happened was, if you saw the video essay, you know, ChatGPT just straight up like added a whole paragraph before the translation. And Mandy did a good job reading it, so I'm going to let you listen to her read it.
Tarlia took a deep breath and turned to Aruru, her heart pounding in her chest. She had been wanting to tell him how she felt for a long time, but every time she tried, the words caught in her throat. This time, though, she had a plan. She had heard a story, one that the girls only told when they turned 10 years old. It was a story about a lake, a shell, and 2 pearls that were said to be the proof of true love.
So I didn't go over the rest of the translation in the big video. So I'll go over it here. This is a story that girls can be told when they turn 10 years, can only be told when they turn 10 years old. Moreover, only to girls. So the AI didn't even change that, even though I told the AI, hey, this is the subtext. Make it sound, you know, she's trying to tell Ayuru she has a crush on him. But the AI didn't do anything to her actual dialogue to bring that out. But then the AI added in the narration, Tarlia began, her voice trembling slightly. She could feel Ayuru's eyes on her, and it made her all the more nervous. I mean, it's cute. It's like cute little narration, and it does add what I wanted the AI to add, but like, it's straight up adding it. It's like adding narration, and I did not ask for that. I said, hey, express this in her dialogue. And it did not. Like, her character voice is not coming out. It's pretty much the same translation. This lake has a very romantic legend besides the fact that our Lord appears here. There's a shell here called the Seiran Pearl. It's the same. The next bit is a bit different. Tarlia, again, the AI just added narration here. Tarlia paused, waiting for Ayuru's reaction. When he didn't say anything, she nudged him with her elbow. Hey, Ayuru, are you listening? She asked, trying to hide the tremble in her voice. It's not tremble, it's more like indignance or like little anger. She's kind of snapping at him. The small tsu indicates that, by the way. If it were a tremble in her voice, it would be more like stuttering. It'd be like, Ayuru, you know, but it didn't do that. She's being more sassy and angry. Huh? Oh yeah, I'm listening, Ayu replied absent-mindedly, his gaze wandering. It's like, that's a bit redundant, and the CHAT GPT just added that. Tarlia felt a pang of disappointment. This is why she had been hesitant to tell him. He never seemed to take anything seriously. Again, ChatGPT just straight up added that. This is why boys are like this, Tarlia muttered under her breath, tossing another pebble into the lake with a snap. And it's not with a snap, it's with a plop. Chapong. But yeah, the ChatGPT didn't get it when I said, hey, I want you to express the subtext that I'm giving you. Tarlia is in love with him and she's trying to hint to him, like show this in her words that she's saying, not necessarily add a bunch of narration. Although, you know, the narration was kind of playful and it did do the job. It was an even worse translation because the Chat GPT just added a bunch of stuff and then didn't even change the dialogue to give Tarlia a character voice. It's really important to give characters character voices, by the way, in English writing and in translation. So the next prompt that I gave ChatGPT is express Tarlia's crush on Ayuru in her lines of dialogue. Don't add extra words into the narrative parts. And this is what ChatGPT gave me.
This is a story that girls can only learn when they turn 10 years old. And it's a really romantic legend, not just some story about the Lord of the Lake. You see, there's a shell called the Seiran Pearl that can only be seen by women who have someone they truly love in their hearts. Inside the shell, there are 2 pearls, as blue and beautiful as the water in the lake. And the 2 people who find them will share them as a symbol of their love forever. Talia looked at the boy next to her. Hey, Aruru, are you even listening? Huh? Oh, yeah, I'm listening, Aruru replied, a little absent-mindedly. Feeling a little disheartened, Tarlia muttered, "This is why boys are so frustrating." And with that, she threw another pebble with a plop.
So this was the best translation yet. Tarlia's speech finally got more natural in this one, and the passively voiced textbookish, "This is a story that girls can only be told when they turn 10 years old, moreover only to girls," was turned into, which I think this is great, by the way, "This is a story that girls can only learn when they turn 10 years old." The clunky textbookish, "This lake has a very romantic legend besides the fact that our Lord appears here," was changed into the more natural sounding and relatable, "And it's a really romantic legend, not just some story about the Lord of the Lake." Like, see? It's switched. It's not just the story about the Lord of the Lake, it's romantic. That's how it was in Japanese, the order. It switched the order. And often you want to do that. Japanese often orders things in reverse, the way we would order them in English. So like, "And it's a really romantic legend, not just some story about the Lord of the Lake." Like, it's a little more enticing. It kind of makes you want to listen. And most impressively, CHAT GPT finally translated the last line correctly as, "This is why boys are so frustrating." That's more the vibe. That's more what she's actually saying when she says, "Kore dakara otoko no kotte." It's still a little on the literal side by saying like, "Kore dakara" is "this is why." When "kore dakara," again, it's more of a sarcastic sighing, fourth wall breaking, sort of, "Can you believe this guy?" It's not explainy. It's not, "This is why boys are so frustrating." But yeah, that was a pretty serviceable translation. But the AI did leave out narrative text this time. So basically, the moral of the story is ChatGPT can translate pretty well, but only if it's coached a lot by a human who understands Japanese and English. And it's like, if you're going to hire a human to do that, to get a good translation out of an AI, you might as well just hire that human to translate it at this point. Because when you give an AI more context and information about the characters, it actually does a pretty decent job. But again, like you have to coach it so much and give it so much information and subtext, and you need a human to read the light novel in Japanese first, understand it in Japanese, think of a summary, write up a character summary, write up a plot summary for the AI, and then like coach it. And then yeah, it's just the way it is right now. AI is not good enough to translate things to quality. It's good enough to translate things. Companies who want to save a buck and who don't really care about quality, you know, they can kind of get away with using AI, and they are trying to, and that's kind of scary for people like us in the industry, because it's going to take away our jobs. And again, how did they train the AI? Off of our translations. Are we seeing any residuals? Nope. But it's bad for us, and it's also bad for the competitors that are trying to do quality translations with their stuff. And it's also bad for the fans, because they get worse localized versions of their favorite media. Having said all that, though, I don't think that AI will never be good enough to translate things well. I do think it is something that they can be eventually trained to do. Technology is amazing. And I also don't think it's necessarily a bad thing if translating eventually goes to AI once they are indeed good enough to do it. The only reason like I would think that it's a bad thing is because under our current system, if you don't have a job, you die. It's like, well, if we could switch our system to a more equitable system where you don't need a job to survive, where we collectively care for each other's base needs, that could be fine. The only issue is we're not that society, so that's why it's a bit concerning. But if you are a translator or an aspiring translator, I do suggest that you play at least with CHAT GPT and see how it works. I mean, chances are you might have to work with it in the relatively near future as part of your job. And it also is okay to use as a tool when you are translating as a human. Sometimes, you know, if you need help parsing out a long, complicated sentence, just plug it into a machine translator and see what they do. Sometimes it's nice for a sanity check or a second opinion or a third opinion to just kind of plug it in. It should never be like your first step in the translating process, like, let's see what the machine did. But it can be a good tool. that you can use. But again, as it is now, it's not good enough to fully replace human translators. That's all, I guess. I don't have an ending for this video, so I'm gonna stand up awkwardly and turn off the camera.